Oh. There you go. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm John with Project Northeast. I'm up here at the Wheelhouse NH up in Claremont, New Hampshire. I got my buddy Eli here, and we are up here on Global Fatbike Day.
That's right.
It is Global Fatbike Day. What is that, you may ask? If you ride mountain bikes, you're probably just like, that doesn't exist. Fat bikes are lame, as a lot of people like to say, but you know what? I'm gonna show you guys some video of the stuff that I ride on my fat bike, and it's stuff that you would never normally be able to ride because it gets filled in with snow, and the gnarliest trails turn into white ribbons of flow, and it's insane.
It's pretty incredible.
So today we're gonna show you probably what I think is probably one of the best values on the market for a fat bike. You can ride it straight out of the box. You can add studs to it if you want. You can keep it without studs. You can go right out of the box and you can go on the trails and you can ride the terrain that I'm gonna show you right now. And then we're gonna do a simple review on it later. So we're gonna show you, we're gonna do a custom build. This is gonna be my new fat bike for riding all like 4,000 footers in the White Mountains and stuff like that. And we'll show you like little custom bits that I'm gonna do. And then we'll show you a full review while we build it. Talk about what's good, what's bad. Well, I don't know if there's anything really bad, but we'll go over the good and why we think it's probably one of the best value fat bikes you can buy complete.
Love it.
Love it? Let's get to work.
Do it.
Oh yeah. All right. The new Farley, we just looked up all the numbers. It looks like it's got a 1 degree steeper C-tube angle, 1 degree slacker head angle, which we're actually gonna make it even more slacker by extending the fork out to like 100 millimeters. And it's got a longer reach, even though I'm downsizing. And then it got rid of the sliding dropouts versus the old one. And it's got way more gear mounting points. If you're into that kind of thing, making coffee and burritos out in the middle of the woods in the winter. That's you, right?
Definitely.
Definitely. That's what I thought. Quick and easy way to shave almost 2 pounds off. Go tubeless. Another good way to drop a pound. Well, not full pound, but drop about a half a pound. Just in the bars. Alrighty then. Nice thing about the Mastodon forks now is we can extend them from 80 millimeter to 100 millimeter, which I think is the max Trek recommends. But then you can also do a little extra thing, but we won't talk about that on the video. If you want to find out the information, inside information of how to make it 110, we'll talk about that later.
Here I am. Oh, whoa.
Scientific study. That's a good ½ inch.
That's on the bottom out. So.
Yep. Yeah.
You're gonna have to clap hard to get closer.
You ain't sending it that big on a fat
No.
Yeah, you might.
So we have achieved 110 millimeters of travel with 100 millimeter geometry. I know we said, you know, that this bike is out of the box, best value, or whatever, and we're changing everything, but this is the point. You can change things.
Doesn't cost anything to change it, though.
Doesn't cost anything to change it. Well, unless you know, pay to have somebody do it. You got the frame stripped down, and we are gonna be building it up from scratch now, just with my custom parts that I've grown accustomed to love. He had another video over the nasty trash can.
Someday.
Woo-hoo. 80 mil Sunringle tape on Sunringle rims
So if we pay this
works.
through the winter,
Tubeless. One of the nice updates is a 100 millimeter BSA threaded bottom bracket shell, so you can run a 170 spaced crankset, which gives you a narrower Q factor, so it feels better on the new model. Woo! And we've got the fork extended, which doesn't cost any money. You can just change the travel, and this will make it right around, what do you think, like 66 degree head angle, probably? Yeah, that sounds right, yeah. Yeah, which would be just about perfect for a fat bike. And the lever's out. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
That's how I do it.
Yep.
So yeah, that opening day.
All right, so it's a perfect day, snowing out, woods are beautiful, and I wanted to go over the spec of the build and the things that I changed just to make it a little bit different. So what I did was, from stock, I took, obviously, the drivetrain, had a GX, cassette, NX crank, changed that out. I had a spare XX1 cassette, XO rear derailleur. Next are carbon cranks with a 170 mil space spindle. It's kind of hard, like, trying to find fat bike standards, you know what I mean? But the standard is, they size the crank spindle based on not the length of the spindle, but the width of the rear end sometimes. So standards used to be like 170 mil spindle, like spacing would be for like 170 mil rear spacing, which would be equivalent up to like a 100 millimeter bottom bracket. And then 197 spaced cranks would be 120 mil bottom bracket Q factor. It's very confusing. But the nice thing about the Trek now and most fat bikes is that this rear spacing is 197 by 12 millimeter axle spacing. So you fit 27.5 with 4.5 inch tires, which is like the widest, which is pretty much the standard for fat bikes now. But this bike runs what's called a 100 millimeter wide bottom bracket shell, which allows you to run, based on the chainstay shape, 170 mil spaced Q factor. So that allows you to have, you know, a little bit less of a wide crankset, so it feels better when pedaling, which I think that's pretty much the standard nowadays. And obviously what we did to the fork, we extended it to 100 millimeters. This is the comp. It comes with the comp Mastodon. I changed out the bars to the new Era, Race Face Era carbon bars, which shaved, you know, at least about half a pound. I upgraded the brakes for myself because I have all my brakes and I actually am supported by Magura. But new for this build is I went with Freedom Coast USA levers, which so far I've done about 5 4,000 foot mountains with these brakes, and they are phenomenal. Completely silent with the, I believe they're the black pads. If you don't know much about Magura, you would know that they make 4 different types of pads, green, black, gold, and I can't remember. There's another one in there somewhere. But if you go, it takes a little bit of research once you are into Magura brakes, but they make, you know, a trail brake, they make a race pad, they make a high performance pad where you can have them stop on a dime, or you can have them have a little bit longer life. It's basically like, you know, if you have different tread patterns, you know what I mean? Like the harder the rubber on the tire, the less traction you have, but the softer the rubber is, the better traction you have, but the easier or the quicker they wear out. And they do the same kind of thing with their brake pad technology. So there's a lot of different options, and there's no brake on the market that I've seen that you can customize more than a Magura. So these are Magura MT5s with the Freedom Coast levers. And I'm running the Black Series. They are a portion, all their brake pads are the same. They're partially organic / metallic. And I can tell you, even when it's snowing, it's freezing, slushy, these brakes will have a tiny little squeak once they like really heat up, but they do not give you that awful goose sound when they get wet. And they perform all the way down the mountain, even when they're hot. As far as other changes, I went with a 170 mil dropper. I tried to put, the stock comes with 150 mil. It was a little bit tall for me because I'm about a 31-inch inseam, and this is a size medium Farley. So I found that the 175 fits perfect. The 200 millimeter dropper would not fit. It would not insert because you would end up hitting, you know, the inserts here for the mount screws. And then I used for studs, this time I went with the XL 45 North XL concave studs. Put about 360 of them in there. Like you can see by the tread pattern with the snow. I didn't do the outsides of the rear. I did more of the center pattern. And then the fronts, I did all of them. I used all the stud pockets. I find that's plenty, even for doing like big 4,000 foot mountains and on ice, because when you think about it, like you're really not going to lean the fat bike over to catch this that well, unless you run really low pressure. So I guess if you were running glare ice, you might put all of them in there, which would mean you'd need close to 420 studs, I think, something like that. But this has worked out for me for like the past 5 years, and it's been great. And then the only other thing that I really upgraded, I did a Race Face turbine stem just because I really like the Race Face products. And we went tubeless with the mule foots, 80 millimeter sun ringle tape, set them up tubeless. They work great. 30 mil 30 tooth chain ring. And I think that's pretty much it, other than the ODI grips. Everything else you see here, the biggest thing with fat bikes, we've discussed this before with a buddy of mine, is you're paying for the frame, the wheel set, and the tires. And that's the biggest thing with this bike is that I like, is it comes with great geometry. Now that we've changed the fork, it's about, 66 degree head angle. It's a little bit steeper seat angle now versus the previous years. It's right around like 73. And what you get in this package is a great geometry for all-around riding. You can extend the fork and you can make it more of an all-mountain fat bike, which is now what this is. it comes with the tires with the stud pockets already there. It comes with great rims that are super reliable. It has the rapid drive 108 rear hub, which gives you awesome engagement. And then you can kind of just customize it like I did as you go along. You don't need to upgrade the brakes right away. You don't need to upgrade, you know, the crankset or drivetrain, but I did because I just wanted to lighten it up a little bit. I think stock this is like 38 pounds, but I think right now, as you saw on the scale, it's like right around 36. But I'm not really worried about weight because I push it up and I ride it down, you know, or sometimes I'll ride it. I do a lot of cross-country rides and stuff like that, but I'm mostly worried about gravity orientation, you know, gravity-oriented trails with this bike, and I want it to grip and perform. It's built like a fat bike enduro bike, and that's the spec, and I hope you like it. Let me know down in the comments if you get any questions. All right. Finish this video off. But one of the reasons why one of these bikes, these Farley 7s, is such a great value is because you get all the stuff that you can do to it. You get studdable tires stock. You just got to buy studs. You can put them in. You can, you know, up the travel on the fork to 100 millimeter, so you can actually slacken a little bit more if you like more of the gravity type of terrain and stuff like that. And it just rides good. The geometry is great. It's a little bit steeper seat angle, 1 degree by the old versus the old Farley. And it's about 1 degree slacker in the head angle, which makes for a little bit more confident going downhill. And overall, I picked this bike because I've been riding the Farley for so long. And whether you're in the White Mountains, you're doing drops at like Winter Woolley, or you're traveling up to Quebec, which has some insane terrain for fat biking that they maintain all winter long. This bike, for me, has been great over the past 3 seasons, but with the deals going on right now with Trek and the value that you can get out of these Farley 7s, and the fact that I was on a large and I wanted to downsize and go with a medium, now I'm on this, and that's why we built this up. So can't wait to get out on the trails. Hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and get up here to the Wheelhouse NH Fat Bike headquarters. You can head right out on the trail sometimes when the conditions are good and get out there. And short drive from here is Woodstock, which they do great grooming and stuff like that. So come up here, pick up a fat bike, and get out on the trails. Tune in next week where I want to show you one of the most beautiful rides I've ever done in our White Mountains. And it will show you why I love fat biking so much.
And it's only gonna, you know, affect Eli. Dude, I could get